We're going to be checking out some more of this, kind of tariff war that's going on in between the United States and Canada. That, of course, the dawn started for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, literally. I mean, it doesn't make any sense still to this day, but this video is about these people going to Canada to see what it's actually like in Canada with like the boycotts and such like that.
Let's check it out. Here we go.
This section here traditionally would have been filled with U.S. corn. Customers love it because it's a great product. What started as a big display has been shrunk.
In response to U.S. tariffs and President Trump's threats to annex
That dang
Canada,
graph.
71% of Canadian consumers say they intend to buy fewer American products this year.
71%. Wow.
It's pretty hard to get 71% of Americans to agree on anything.
I'm trying to think of like the inverse. Like if Canada randomly, they wouldn't do it, but if they randomly started throwing shots at the U.S. and like tariff in the U.S., how many people would decide to buy less Canadian products? I feel like it wouldn't.
Most people wouldn't know what a Canadian product is.
Yeah, and there wouldn't be enough like unity to want to be like,
No way.
actually, I feel proud of America. I'm going to start buying more American
No
products.
way.
That's having an impact. The U.S. economy could lose up to 0.3% of its GDP,
That's
or about
actually a lot.
$90 billion in 2025, due to the boycott of American goods and the decline in foreign tourism.
That money would probably get funneled into some billionaires' pockets in some way or another. But, I mean, there's a lot of programs that could be paid per year with $90 billion.
But instead, we're going to shut down the government and cut those programs.
Yeah, why not?
And the decline in foreign tourism. Giancarlo Tremarchi is the owner of Vince's Market, a Canadian grocery store chain with 4 locations. He's seen the backlash firsthand.
Talk to me a bit about how the Buy Canada movement has affected you at the grocery store.
Our customers are demanding from us as much Canadian product as possible. They're getting frustrated and upset when they see too much U.S. product.
We've obviously seen the very visible and visceral reaction from markets to US policies, but it's very interesting to see from the consumer side what impact it's having. And these little acts of activism from consumers who have decided to turn their back on certain US products.
If there was a Canadian version and an American version, we probably already delisted the American version and supported the Canadian product because that's what our customers are looking for.
And several countries,
I mean,
including
realistically, not buying the American product is probably a lot better for you. And it's probably, I mean, there's probably so many dang negative health effects that come from all the chemicals in the American products.
Canada's definitely got some better food regulations, I would assume.
I would assume.
Canada and Mexico and some in the European Union, are responding to aggressive U.S. trade policies with retaliatory tariffs of their own.
The U.S. tariffs look like they're going to last for the duration of the Trump
I don't really get we're gonna show the entire computer instead of just zoom the guy in.
Yeah, true.
in one form or another. That's going to keep other countries.
Oh, there we go.
kind of
Zoomed in now. They just had
mood towards
to
US
establish it.
Goods and services.
Dang, so those
Countries kind of in a negative
Some of these
mood
are like selling out
towards
there.
US goods and services.
So what impact is the boycott on U.S. goods and travel having? And is this just a political statement or a permanent shift in buying behavior? CNBC went to Canada to find out. Vince's Market got its start in Toronto in 1986 and serves about 30,000 customers weekly.
March was when the real tariff threat was like all the news. We had Canada flags everywhere in the store.
Tremarchi says since then, his customers have moved decisively away from U.S. products.
At the height of when we are out of Canada's growing season, we could be upwards of 60%, 70% American produce, okay?
Jeez.
Right now, we're only running at about 30%.
Canadian flags and labels mark domestic goods in aisles, while apps like MapleScan help shoppers identify origin.
You
Wow, they
take
made
a
an
photo.
app for that.
Whoa.
That's crazy. Product of Canada and then made in Canada shows both of them.
Wow, that's cool.
A product. The app will scan what that product is, figure out what it is, the label, look up information online about it, essentially compile all that information together into a product page to kind of give you information about like
No way,
the
right?
company's history, who it's been owned by in the past versus now, what are its Canadian ties.
But some items are hard to replace.
Mangoes and pears you can get from different parts of the world. When you get into things like Anjou and Bartlett pears, right now you can only get them from the United States.
The most in demand and the hardest ones to replace from the U.S. is typically berries, citrus, and greens, lettuce.
If there
Little too
is
north in
produce from the
Canada.
U.S. and produce from Canada, And they're the same, of course, I'll go Canadian, of course.
We've always been very pro-Canadian, even way before all this stuff happened. This just reinforced it.
Canada is America's second largest food export market, worth $28.4 billion in 2024.
It's crazy to just put that in jeopardy. Just huge numbers right there. I can't imagine. I mean, the farmers are pissed. The agricultural section of the economy is pissed when this type of stuff happens, because a lot of times they're like having a hard time, especially local farmers.
Yeah, you see that's the news interviews randomly all the time where some farmer's like, I can't afford to pay for my equipment this year.
And they're from some southern state.
And then they still voted for Donald Trump.
They always
he's
do.
going to bring the business back.
They always do. And then they also are deporting all of the illegal immigrants. And that's getting rid of their workforce.
I mean, we're from Minnesota. Think about some of the farmers in Minnesota. I was talking about corn. A lot of Canadians seem to buy some corn from the U.S. And Minnesota grows a lot of corn. Iowa, right next door, grows a lot of corn. I imagine they're taking hard hits because they're pretty close. So they probably export a lot of corn to Canada. And, I mean, it's all Don's fault.
They're getting rid of a huge section of their customers and their workforce at the same time. What a way to kill that entire industry.
The boycott has impacted other parts of the store too.
How is that affecting kind of these perceived American products like Coca-Cola or Lay's?
Yeah, Coca-Cola and Lay's are great examples of global brands. They actually bottle Coke bottles in Canada, about an hour and 30 minutes north of here. Frito-Lay uses Canadian potatoes. There would have been no identification of where Frito-Lay products were made. It would have been small and on the back. Once they realized that they were getting a bad rap, they went ahead and they added Made in Canada labels permanently onto the bags.
American staples like wine, beer, and spirits have seen the biggest change being wiped off Canadian shelves. Earlier this year, multiple Canadian provinces announced they were
That does kind of suck for like the smaller companies from the U.S. that aren't like giants like Lay's and Coke, like that can't just like change where they make it or their ingredients like that to keep the market flowing. Like a smaller wine company like that, they just get killed.
That's the thing that's so annoying about the tariff plan he did. It's such a blanket thing over everyone, everywhere, when it should be a bit more nuanced than that. Like, there should be a little more thought to it because it's affecting certain people disproportionately more.
When do you think thoughts happen in Don's head?
Whenever it's about himself.
Alcohol from their store shelves. And in March, Canada imposed a 25% tariff on all U.S. alcohol products. A 25% tariff on distilled spirit imports from Mexico and Canada could cost more than 31,000 U.S. jobs.
There we go.
So we're in our wine section now. Our wine business, roughly 35-40% of our red wine sales is California cabs and blends. So that's $60,000 a week in sales that are just gone. They've evaporated from the United States. We're replacing it, and we're replacing it with import wines from France, from South Africa, from Australia, from New Zealand.
In 2024, Canada was the U.S.'s top export market for alcohol, exporting $435 million worth of wine, $221 million in distilled spirits, and $41 million in beer to Canada. The loss to the U.S. is a boon to Canada, with the Buy Canada movement adding roughly $10 billion to the country's economy. Giancarlo thinks if the tariff dispute is resolved, the boycott might ease, but it's unlikely every customer will go back to buying American.
So I actually just had to respond to a customer from last week that came in and felt like we had too much American product, and they told us they're not going to shop at our store anymore.
And just like shelves are being cleared of American products, international travelers are clearing their travel plans to America, turning away from the country as a destination.
Seen some stuff about that. Tourism pullback.
More Canadians visit the U.S. each year than from any other country. In 2024, 20 million Canadians visited the U.S., generating $20.5 billion in spending. But the flow is slowing. Online travel searches from Canada to the U.S. dropped 50% this spring.
50%.
If you look at Canadian drive traffic, it was down nearly 30% in March. Air travel, not as bad. Combined, it was down about 15%.
And you hear it anecdotally, either Canadians staying in Canada for vacation or going to somewhere else like Europe.
Businesses along the northern U.S. border report plunging revenues, vanishing foot traffic, and uncertainty over survival.
When you look at that border
blanket thing over everything affects the people probably by the border a lot more in the U.S. than people in some other areas.
It's just the plan of a man who doesn't know what he's talking about.
Like as you said, Michigan, obviously with Windsor and Detroit right there. When you look at New York State, Buffalo, they've taken the brunt of that fall in Canadian travel.
And it's not just Canada. Across the Atlantic, travel to the U.S. from Europe is also dropping.
Sort of early indications from Europe that might be the case too. A core saying that bookings from Europe to the US are down 25% over the summer period.
The pullback is costly. The U.S. is on track to lose $12.5 billion in international visitor spending this year compared with 2024. It's part of a sharp reversal over the past decade, but tensions tied to trade and immigration are making it worse.
It's about $200 billion that these international travelers spend. That's bigger than all of our agricultural exports combined. We need these travelers here, obviously, from a job standpoint, a spending standpoint. You know, when these travelers come, they do nothing more than come, spend their money, and go home and tell.
The crazy thing is, too, like, all these travelers are leaving, but the hotel prices aren't going to go down at all. So there's, like, pricing out Americans, especially lower-class Americans from traveling, and then they don't have these more middle upper class travelers from other countries because they don't want to lose any money. But I don't know, it's just so greedy.
I wonder how if the U.S. will change any visa requirements for any other countries too, because they're so strict with travel from other countries.
They won't.
But now they're eliminating the travel from the countries that already were able to travel pretty easily.
I mean, Trump literally said that he only wants people from Europe and Canada, I assume, to come there.
He literally banned a ton of countries from traveling to the U.S., straight up banned that recently, I remember.
So nothing's going to change. The prices are going to stay dang high for Americans, so that's not going to improve any domestic tourism, and foreigners just aren't going to come. So the money's just going to keep tanking. It's crazy.
Friends and family to do the same thing. It's free money. So discouraging these travelers, letting this deficit grow as we seek to balance the trade deficit, we're only digging a deeper hole. What are we doing to send a message that we want you coming to the United States? And that's what's been missing.
From goods to getaways, the impact of U.S. policy is reshaping international behavior, and the ripple effects may be long-lasting. The boycotts that began in Canada have spread. European consumers frustrated with American foreign policy are rejecting U.S. companies as well. And anger over Trump's comments about annexing Greenland led 44% of European consumers to say they're shifting away from U.S. products, no matter what happens with trade negotiations.
Tesla, McDonald's, these being front of mind, some of these really big household US names that they've just been rejected by some consumers in Europe.
Not McDonald's.
Tesla has seen the brunt of the boycotts.
Everyone needs McDonald's.
Its European car sales have tanked for the 5th straight month in May, with sales plunging almost 28% from brand damage, increased competition, and the political
Somehow
views.
the owner of Tesla is worth $500 billion, but his company's sales just keep going down. How does that work, guys?
Suspicious. He also has ties to the government.
How is this working?
Of CEO Elon Musk.
I want to temper the optimism a little bit. It's tough out there. I mean, the markets, particularly in the U.S. and then developed Europe, I'll say, remain very subdued. The trends, the total distilled spirits, which would be total spirit takeaway, in these markets are not anywhere near where they were 2 or 3 years ago.
The fallout from America's trade wars is no longer limited to tariffs and boycotts. Global growth is now projected to slow by nearly 0.5 percentage point as a result.
In terms of global GDP growth, that is a big number because the annual growth is maybe like 3.5 or 4%, and you're taking 1% off of that. That's a pretty big hit.
What we're starting to see in the data is that American manufacturers based in the U.S. are starting to increase prices as a response to lowering volumes in other countries,
manufacturing
like
back
Canada,
to the
for
U.S.
example.
But still, there's hope that the trade tensions will ease over the long term.
Do you think that this will be a long-term trend?
I think there will be some long-term impact where American products and American brands will be negatively impacted long-term. But I do believe there's a point where we get back to a balance of an interconnected food system, because just that serves the best needs of our customers, both sides of the borders.
Don't do it, Canada. Just keep boycotting U.S. I feel like the U.S. needs to get to the point where, I don't know, they voted for Trump twice.
They deserve some backlash.
Something needs to happen to wake people up. Like if it has to get really bad in the U.S. to wake people up, something's got to happen because they're just going to vote for the next Trump 4 years from now. They'll be like, oh no, Trump's so bad, let's vote for the Democrat. And then the Democrat will come in. They won't change much because Democrats don't change anything. And then they'll just vote for the next Trump-esque candidate, and then it will just keep sinking. I don't know. Something's got to change in the U.S. for people to wake up.
Yeah, I mean, literally, the Americans have seen no benefits for any of these actions. It purely benefits the super wealthy, and for some reason, people decide to keep doing it. So there needs to be some sort of drawback to where eventually they'll change their minds, but you never know.
They might not. They might be like, this is fine. America's still the best place on earth.
Look at that big economy number.
Hey, at least Trump says mean things about women and immigrants, so I'm happy about that. Own those libs.
I don't like anyone that isn't white, so I'm glad he's locking down all those people with ICE.
It's pretty crazy how easy it is to get the American public on your side. It really doesn't take much.
No, you just have to be racist and talk about some religion every once in a while and talk about the economy.
I love Jesus. I love him more than anybody else. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.